please welcome to UR Asia Dr. Pablo Suarez. Hello, Pablo. Ooh, getting.
Thank you. Hello, friends. Can you hear me? Yes. Well, it's dark and it's cold, so a lot of me wants to be with you in Singapore. But hey, I'm delighted to be with you virtually. Well, it was below freezing last night, and now it's pretty cold. But in any case, speaking of cold and speaking of other things, I have to invite you, Sam, to please be fully present in that room, because you will serve not only as the person who introduces me and the person who wraps up and the person who comments on what our participants will contribute during this interactive session. I also need you to be my eyes and my ears of what happens in the session on site, because I can only see myself. So if you see anything strange, any moment of confusion, inspiration, laughter, feel free to relay to me, okay? Excellent. So let's get this started. Friends, thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you. My name is Pablo. As mentioned, I'm from Argentina. There was a time when I was a full-time researcher on disaster modeling. I used the language of mathematics to understand, anticipate, and address changing risks. And guess what? When I communicated what science said, I spoke to people, I shared models, I was part of conferences, and then what did people do? They mostly fell asleep, or in other ways ignored what the science was saying, because we know predictably that it takes more than just science to get people, whether it's government officials or donors or community leaders or spiritual leaders, to trust what is said and to turn knowledge into action. So I have become a bit of an innovator in trying to figure out and create new modalities of engagement on how to turn what we know into what we do. A lot of it has to do with trust. So what we're going to do today is to embark in an unconventional, hybrid, intensely interactive session where all of you, all of us, people on site, hundreds of people joining virtually, are going to be sharing ideas, thoughts, and guesses about this business of trust. I have to warn you that you should be prepared for some work on your part. You cannot just be passively waiting for things to happen. Those of you who are at the conference venue, you should have access to a piece of paper. Make sure you have one sheet with you and something to write on it, because you will have to work, you will have to write, you will have to see what other people wrote, you will have to count. You're going to try to win this game by having more points than other people in your table. That's how we learn in this session. We're going to be playful. For those of you on site, we're going to invite you to, in a few moments when we give you the link, to use your brain power connected to a web page where you will be entering your thoughts, submitting your guesses, and you don't need to do the math. The point calculation will be done for you directly. For that, we advise, if you can, that you use a computer, desktop or laptop, as opposed to tablet or phone, because the tool we will be using, the game platform, it is optimized for computers, and it may be glitchy in phones or tablets. Also, if you have choice of browser, it's better to use the new ones like Chrome or Firefox. If you use Netscape Navigator, you're going to be in trouble. And if glitches happen, just live with it. It's going to be brief and it's going to be playful. So we're going to be playing a game. The game is called I Think We Think. Why? Because when it comes to trust, trust is a relationship between people. And we need to anticipate what others are thinking. Do you think you know what they think? Can you guess what they think about what you think should be thought by them. This is going to get interesting. So, first round. Sam had a brilliant idea to warm us up in this game by talking about food. Asia is a place where food happens probably better than any other place. So the first round will be a conversation about food you trust. I want each of you to think, what do you think of when you think of food you trust? Can you think of one word that comes to mind? It could be an actual food you eat. It could be an entity that makes the food. It could be an attribute of the food or a way of processing or a location. I don't know. Think of that. If you are on site, be ready to write at the top of your page, what is your thought when you think of food? Indeed, we're going to ask you to write your 3 thoughts. Don't write the word thought 1. Write the word that you think of when thinking of food you trust. And then the second, and then the third one. For those on site, online, we're going to ask you to go to a website. I did share the link with participants on the IT team. I hope that this can be shared with others.
If I'm not wrong, it will show up in the chat and the bottom left. So just have a check on that.
Or maybe someone can migrate to create at least 2 people per table. It's better with 3 people or more. Good. Yes, thank you, Professor Vinod. Indeed, people online, you should first encounter a blue screen that looks like what we have on screen now. Welcome to I Think We Think. Your game will begin shortly. We want you to enter your name. Can be your real name or a nickname or any display name you want. Can you please verify that people had access to the link before I move forward? Perfect. Indeed. So now that we know that people had access to the website, I'm going to invite my dear colleague David, who is part of this event, to advance the online team to the next screen, which will look like what you see now. You are invited to write your thoughts. What's in your mind when thinking of food you trust? Write something on number 1. Again, ideally 1 word or 2 words, which will become compressed later. Something else on number 2 and something else on number 3. What is it that you think? The same that people did on paper. You have to act fast because David is about to push the countdown. And when the 10 seconds of the countdown are up, you have to have submitted your thoughts, what you think when you think of food you trust. Thanks for your patience, friends. We're warming up. David, feel free to start your countdown anytime soon.
While we're waiting for the online team to do this, the physical people have done this, so I will attempt a cartwheel to buy time.
All is good. So what we're going to do now is to invite you to think, what do you think other people thought?
Yeah.
Maybe they thought exactly what you were thinking, but maybe not. So if this had been about animals, Maybe if I just came back from a safari, I could say lion, zebra, giraffe, but other people are thinking of dog, cat, mouse, or cockroaches and stuff like that. Do you think that your thoughts are identical to what other people thought, or are they different? Here's the trick. You're going to be invited to write your guesses. David, feel free to advance to the next screen for the participants online. And each player will be invited to write the top guesses of what you think that other people thought. What did they write before? Can you write those? And for those people who are on site, you have written your 3 thoughts. At the bottom, write your 3 guesses. What do you guess they wrote? For every time that someone else wrote what you guess, you get a point. So you're going to try to guess right, because if your guess matches one person, what they thought, you get a point. If it matches 2 people, you get 2 points. If each of your words get point, you get many points, and your goal is to get as many points as possible.
Yeah.
So those on site.
Yeah, those on site can write at the bottom. Please don't be cheeky and write your 3 guesses as the 3 things you wrote yourself. You can't think about what you're thinking about, you have thought it. So guess what you think your fellow participants. Are they looking at local food, international food, maybe just something simple like a biscuit or a coffee? So top 3, what you think, and bottom 3, what you think they think. Ooh, mind reading.
Exactly. And that's what trust is about trying to figure out what is it that makes us be together, be one. So David, I think we've given our participants online enough time to write. If you want, feel free to start the countdown. They will have to act fast. And meanwhile, do you think that your guesses were good? Do you think you know what other people think? Or do you think that you have no way of knowing? How can we tell if we're thinking the right thing about what other people think? So what we're going to do now is for participants on site, you are now allowed to look at what other people thought, what they wrote in the top of the page. And look, does any of your guesses match what they wrote? If so, for each time, you get a point. Meanwhile, for participants online, David, we can advance to the next web page, which will show how many points you got. Maybe you got 0 points.
Yeah. People
Sam,
physically
did you want
here,
to share
remember
anything?
So I was going to say, Pablo, people physically here, remember to keep track of your points, share with each other, tell each other why you think those are the choices you made. But Pablo, take it away for the online participants.
Excellent. So participants online, you see now whether you got any points or not. Maybe you got 0 points if no one else wrote what you guessed. Maybe you got some points. David, let's advance to the next one, please, which should be showing us the word cloud. Oh, look at that. Look at that. So participants on site, you should be able to see the word clouds of the actual thoughts, what people were thinking when thinking of food they trust. A lot of people were thinking healthy, fresh, rice, delicious. There were decent matches with the guesses, but not everything. For example, chicken was very much guessed, but not many people wrote it as the actual thought. There's a mismatch. Organic. A lot of people guessed that other people wrote organic, but it wasn't so present. Sam, do you have any reflections on what you see?
Yes, actually we're seeing here, I'm curious how the people here physically, could we get the word slide, the word cloud back up so we can show the physical participants, because I want to see what you here got, because we can see we got healthy, fresh, organic, rice, bread, as expected for Understanding Risk and Understanding Risk Asia. Everyone wants to be healthy. No one's written down fried chicken. Very good. Everyone said, someone's written down countries. We have Indonesia here. Who here, which tables had healthy? Show of hands physically. No one here is healthy. Terrible sign. Oh, one person was healthy. Very good. Most of the guesses, as you can see, also about everyone went for more specific food items rather than descriptive. Everyone went for nouns more than adjectives. We've got nutritious, healthy, fresh, apple, rice. I think somebody went unprocessed, very showing off how healthy you are. Yeah, we get it. You're eco-friendly. We know. Yeah, we all like quinoa. All right. We got bread. We have safe. Someone wants to eat a safe. Very good. A lot of iron in that. And someone truly showing off had guessed planted on my background healthy. Can the IT team disconnect that person from the call? Very lovely. But it's good to see everyone going for more healthy options, eating healthier. Physically, I'm guessing most people went for specific food items, like because we're in Singapore, chili crab or curry puff or chicken rice or McDonald's. Singaporean foods. So yeah, we have a nice mix and understanding. But this is just the warm-up. We're going to get into the more serious things, aren't we, Pablo?
Yes, indeed. For people on the conference venue, please flip your page because now we're moving on to a bit more nuanced and difficult conversation. For those online, David, you can advance to the next page. The activity is the same. Here, by the way, we see the ranking. Colleen and Doug got 14 points. Fiona got 12, and Anonymous AB 11. And if you scroll down, you see more points by more people. This was just the first round. There's 2 more rounds coming. And now we'll be faster because you know how it works. Let's see how many got 0. There you go. Pablo got 0. And many anonymous people got 0. By the way,
raise your hands here physically if you got 0. Raise your hands here physically if you got 0. One person. Because you chose healthy. That's why you lose. But yes, we have a lot of people with 0. But don't worry, this is just a warm-up. We're going to get into the more serious, actually more thoughtful questions in just a bit. Pablo, what would be the next one we're going to talk about?
The next one will be, let's advance, David, please, to the next one. It's what's in your mind when you think of trust in the science of risk. What do you think of when you think of trust? You cannot write the word trust, you cannot write the word science, and you cannot write the word risk. Anything else, you can. Again, it can be attributes, it can be entities, it can be actions, it can be anything you want. Let's give you less than a minute to write on paper for those on site, on the website for those joining online. What comes to mind when you think of trust in the context of science and risk?
Yes, please do not write down trust, science, or risk. Feel free to write down in, the, or off. Those are general words. You're going to be okay. So write it down, and then for the people here physically, y'all can get ready to write down what you think the other person thinks they think. There should be a drinking game every time someone says think, you drink. If you think, thank, thunk. All right? Everyone going. Someone's writing healthy again. Very lovely. All right, Pablo.
So, David, let's begin to start the countdown at your convenience. So the first round, again, the top of the page for those on site is, what do you think? What do you think when thinking of trust, which is what brings us together? And as soon as you're done with that, without revealing that to others, you want to keep it secret if you're on site. Now let's move on to the next phase, which is in this round, writing your guesses. What do you guess that other people wrote? So like before, line number 1, line number 2, line number 3, and every time someone else actually wrote what you're guessing, you get a point. We saw in the previous round that several players got many points. Some of us got 0. Let's see how you do. What do you think they're thinking when thinking of trust?
Physical participants, please write it down, but don't show each other yet. We want to do it simultaneously. It is a hybrid event after all. We must focus on those at home. So just hold on there. Keep your thoughts to yourself for now.
And David, let's start the countdown at your convenience. And again, I invite you to wonder, do you feel comfortable with your guess? Do you think you know what they're thinking, or are you like clueless? This matters because when we communicate risk, we have to anticipate what is in other people's mind. What is it that they trust? Do they trust us or do they trust someone else? Do they trust what we know or do we trust what we feel? One thing I learned is that research shows that showing research does not work. So what do we show in addition to research? Do we show that we care? Do we show that we're an authority? Do we show that we're well fed and eat organic? I don't know. Let's see. The time is up, so now we can reveal. For those on site, you can look at each other's papers, see if you got the guesses right. For participants online, you should now be seeing how many points you got. Maybe 0, maybe more. I wish you success. There will be only one or a few winners. David, let's advance to the next one directly, the word cloud. And let's see what people, oh, very interesting. Very interesting. So people on site and people online, I invite you to take a moment to read the richness of this. One thing I noticed very clearly, people guessed government as something that people trusted, but very few people wrote government. So there's a mismatch between what we guess and what's going on. And this is only for people who are participating in Understanding Risk Asia. Imagine how much more diversity and how many more gaps there may be for participants from the distance. I will let you, Sam, give a little bit of breathing time for participants, and then I invite you to share your own reflections.
Yes, I think people here on the ground are very excited to learn, see what each other are doing. Everyone's quite lovely. I think, as we can see in the data over here, the biggest is communication, there's evidence, transparency, uncertainty, data, safety, and the tiniest font, you see government efficient response. It's tiny, tiny. Let me just see how many people here actually wrote down communication physically. Raise your hands if you wrote down for communication. Once again, one person. Hello, healthy. Anyone else here wrote down? We've got some tables. Very good. Very lovely. Now, on the guessing side, we can see communication was number one guess. Who guessed communication? Wow, that's really bad communication here. Nobody guessed it. Fascinating. We have a lot of guesses for government. Why? We got knowledge, evidence, safety, research, accuracy. This is a conference of very intellectual people. So you've all gone for not just what matters, but what actually matters on a higher and lower ground, more than what people on the floor think about, more than what politicians and powers that be think about. You are looking at the numbers, as you can see. Research, data, facts, and sharing those facts with communication. This is as nice as I'm going to get for the rest of the conference. I'm going to be snarky for the rest. I'm being nice now. Back to you, Pablo.
All right, moving on to the last round. And by the way, can you tell me when we are expected to end? Because there were a bit of delays. Do we have 5 minutes or? Let
me just check here. We have some time on the clock, but I know we're running over, aren't we? We're running slightly over, so we probably will have maybe 10, 15? Okay, 10 to 15 more minutes, Pablo.
We are in good shape then.
Warp speed.
So now comes the last one, the one that I think is the most interesting. Oh, by the way, yes, thank you, David, for showing us. Colleen remains at the top. Now she edged Doug Radford. Fiona keeps doing very well, but see how many of these points are the points from food, because not many people got good points on the
Take
question
that,
about
Doug Radford.
trust. Excellent. So, and here comes the zeros, and Pablo is again a player with a 0, as is Marvin and a few others. Let's see if we can escape that. Okay, moving on to the next one. The next one is not your words about trust, but it's what you think, what's in your own mind when you think of no trust in the science of risk. What makes you not trust when someone shows you what they claim is the science of risk? What do you think is not worthy of trust? For those of you in the conference venue, figure it out with the paper, cut it up, fold it, whatever is needed to write the thought number 1, thought number 2, thought number 3. Keep it secret, protect it with your body as needed. Participants online, same as before. What is it that makes you not trust the science of risk? What is it that makes you? So let's give you less than a minute.
Yeah.
And we wish you success.
For the physical participants here, just write it down as per normal. Try to use the same piece of paper. And before you write down any options, please remember, those of you who are PRs or citizens, to choose your answers carefully.
Oh, one thing that I forgot to say to participants online, that if you write with a typo, you only get a point if someone else wrote the exact typo. If you wrote soccer instead of football, well, people are not writing the same as you don't get a point. So try to think exactly what do you think that they are thinking when thinking of no trust. David, at your convenience, feel free to start the countdown. And very soon we're going to see how much we know what we think about what other people think.
Although if you do write soccer instead of football, you're going to make a lot of friends with the Americans. We've got some participants coming in. Welcome in, friends. Welcome in. He's got some people to come in. Just for the people that just come in, could you please write 3 thoughts on when you think of the words no trust in the science of risk, write down your top 3 thoughts. All right, thank you. It's in the piece of paper in front of you. Thank you for coming on time. All right.
All right.
It's raining. It's raining.
I think we are ready to move on. David, if you can advance to the guest part, where now participants, both on site and online, are invited to write what do they guess that other people wrote? Do you think they're thinking exactly the same as you in terms of no trust in the science of risk, or maybe they're thinking something different? Maybe you're an expert, but most people are not experts in the things that matter to you. So let's give you less than a minute and sharpen your pencils, yeah? Because you have to be good. You have to try to nail it. Can you guess it?
Yeah. This is the final chance for Doug Radford to take the lead. So come on, Doug. We believe in you. Write down something good. Don't write down soccer. It's not soccer.
So let's give you a few more moments, and this is pressure like in the real world. You wish you had more time, but you only get the time you have. So David, at your convenience, let's start the countdown, and now we'll get a lot of revelation. What is it that people don't trust? And what is it that people think that other people don't trust? This is going to get interesting.
All right.
So I want you to pause for a moment and think that while we're now playing a game and enjoying the suspense, and Sam, I'm so grateful to you for your not only reading the room, but also adding spice to this experience. But remember that failure to earn trust, failure to anticipate what makes people not trust, can live in the difference between life and the absence of life. Trust shapes action based on risk. So this matters. Let's reveal it, David. Let's show those word clouds. Sorry, first we are going to see how many people get points, right?
With each other and see whether
exactly.
what you thought about their thoughts, and did their thoughts match yours?
And for those on site, feel free to say yes when you notice that someone else wrote what you guessed. That is likely going to be a rare experience, but if it happened, we want to hear it. Meanwhile, David, if you want, advance to the word cloud. Okay, very interesting. Very interesting. So we see... Something's happening on site. Can you share some?
I see one very obvious big word. Just like to say, please don't put me in jail, Pablo. I have a family
I will
to feed.
not. I'm sure you're referring to uncertainty, right? This is very interesting. Uncertainty featured prominently in both what people thought and what people guessed. But then there are some, for example, misinformation. A lot of people guessed that others are thinking misinformation, but those who don't trust, they don't think of misinformation. They just don't trust. So how are we going to frame this? Look at the other aspects of difference. There's politics was very prominent in what people really thought, but very few people guessed it, even though it's obvious. Conspiracy, fake news was a good match between the two, black box was quite prominent in the thoughts, but not in the guesses. This is fantastic. Sam, any thoughts on your end?
Yeah, on my end, I think most people, I'm guessing most people here on the ground had similar views to everybody. Can we agree with that? Yeah, it seems so. We have, how many of you wrote the G word? Be honest. Safe distancing officers will be turned around, you'll be fine. You wrote the G word, raise your hand. And it's a perfectly fine answer because, as Professor Vino mentioned, there are some constraints with politics and government when it comes to responses on risk of science. And as we can see, we also have lack of transparency, oversimplification, and a very key one, non-scientists. Having someone not in science come up and talk about understanding risk. The guy says as the non-scientist being the host of the Understanding Risk Asia conference. But we also have a lot of people guessing similar things. Corruption, miscommunication, misinformation, a lot of fake news, uncertainty. There is that doubt that can we actually put the news that we want forward? Not just the data is good to have, but can we show the data properly and accurately? And I think that's something that we are all concerned about, which is why we're all here in this conference, able to share the right information together. Back to you, Pablo.
Thank you. I'd like to share one particular approach that as a scientist, I have found that really helps engage people in a way that has a chance of building trust in science. It's a surprising thing. It is art and beauty. No one wrote it, but let me change the tools I'm using here. Bear with me as I push some buttons. Let's make this full size. Let's make me a little smaller, maybe semi-transparent. All right. This is from one of the earlier Understanding Risk conferences in Venice. And this is from a project that I was leading in West Africa, in the nation of Togo, where I was doing something complex involving hydrology and machine learning and financial instruments to move money before the disaster but after the forecast. No one paid attention to me. I started talking data and people just didn't engage, and those who engaged not necessarily trusted me. But when I worked with other creative types to portray the data in a way that was beautiful, some people got attracted to it. And some people started asking questions. And then I could help them notice the patterns that they themselves could appreciate. And that began to engender curiosity, which led to trust, which is the precondition for change. So as you think of what you are going to do in your work, whether you're with government, with academia, with private sector, with insurance, with activists and civil society, bear in mind that what we do to earn trust in the science of risk needs to be thoughtful. You need to think what they think, and it can be creative. Thank you so much to the organizing team for the opportunity to be with you. Thank you, Sam, again for such good play. I think we have proven that hybrid formats can do awesome work together with people on site and people online. And let's see who was the winner. David, would you like to advance to the next slide? Oh, guess what? We have a surprise winner. Colleen was bumped to second. Doug caught up, but that wasn't enough. We don't have awards for this instance, but those who know how to think about what others think, they are up to something. They can help shape what we do about risk. Thank you again. Over to you, Sam. See you tomorrow.